Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wrap Up Live. This is the official Raptors Republic live post-game show. We've got myself here, Sahal Abdi, here with Adon Moss and Kyle Brickman of Raptors Republic. We've got Chris Howson-Jan of Raptors Republic in the background, working hard as per usual. Guys, another win for the Toronto Raptors, 125-113 over the Charlotte Hornets. It was a good game to watch, very fun. At one point, I thought the Raptors were going to blow the lead in the third quarter, right when it began. But they sustained, and it looked good. And there's a couple guys that I want to get to later on in the show. But how's everything with you guys, Adon and Kyle? Are you guys doing okay?
I'm good. I'm on the Sunshine Coast.
Good. So really quick, because I said this to you guys before we started recording, I just want to let everybody know who's watching. And by the way, we're not sponsored by Doritos, but this is one of the best Doritos flavors I have ever had in my life. I just want to start off the show with that. Flaming Hot Cool Ranch, because I'm not a big Cool Ranch person, but I'm a big Flaming Hot guy. So, yeah, we're not sponsored by them. So it's just free promo, but I had to. It's one of the best chips I've ever had. Anyways, moving on. Like I said, 125-113 win. Pascal Siakam, guys. All NBA level. He is absolutely incredible. The best Toronto Raptor on the floor. Fred VanVleet didn't play today. He was out. I'm not sure with what injury. I should probably know that, but I'm not sure exactly what it was. I know it wasn't rest. It was probably just a minor injury. But the Raptors look good. They started Gary Trent Jr., OG, Pascal, Boucher, I believe, and Precious Achiuwa. Right into the crux of the game, guys. First of all, who was the player you were most impressed with? And what was the key to the Raptors winning this game? I'll ask Kyle first.
I mean, it's got to be Pascal. And I'm a little disappointed for him that he didn't get the triple-double at the end, although especially after, he really should have been pulled at 2 minutes earlier, and, every minute is precious with this guy because, he's playing so much already. They gave him the extra minute and a half to get the triple-double, and he didn't get it. So, little disappointing there just on, feel for him. But he had a great night. Starting at point guard, which I got to say, we should start, a petition or something to rework these pregame graphics. Okay, he's the starting quote-unquote point guard. He's a forward. I'm not doing this where, Pascal's a point guard one game and Scottie is a shooting guard in a different game.
It's a center.
No. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. These guys are forwards. Let's just put their it's like college basketball or something. But he was the starting quote unquote point guard for the night, distributed incredibly well. He had 12 assists and scored in isolation, scored in transition. I mean, he had a truly an all NBA night.
He definitely did. Adon, I know you didn't get a chance to watch the entire game from start to finish, but what did you think about Pascal's night from what you did see?
Yeah, I had the game on in the background while I was playing Catan, drinking beer. So, my analysis is going to be
I love that.
A little bit layperson. But to me, this game was about, there's a little bit of a logjam with this team. I know we don't have depth, but there's a little bit of a logjam in the sense that there's overlap with play or style of play. And so, Kyle took Pascal, and, with Freddie gone, it's Pascal, it's his team. It's his game. You do what you want. And we saw that in spades. But then with a guy like Banton, it's the same kind of thing where there's no Barnes to take over the ball handling duties. There's more space for him to kind of run around and find those seams and attack them aggressively. And clearly he's gotten the confidence from the 905. So I wanted to highlight Banton this game. It was nice to see him come back after being put in the refrigerator for the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, there was a few players in this game who don't usually, get a chance to get on the court or get big minutes on the court. One thing that people are already mentioning in the comments is Justin Champagnie, how he got tossed from the game. There was a little scuffle between him and PJ Washington. Unfortunate. And it was, weirdly enough, it wasn't just one play that led to it. It was 2, 3, or 4 plays.
Dude, I want to know their history.
Yeah, it was back to back to back to back where they were trying to trip each other and giving each other hip checks. And it was weird because you don't really see a player like Justin get riled up like that. But I mean, who wouldn't that rile up for 3 or 4 plays in a row? They were taking shots at each other. They both got tossed from the game, in which I thought was a really decision. I thought they were both going to get maybe techs or flagrants, whatever you want to call it. Once I saw PJ Washington kind of like shove Justin's face, that's when I was like, okay, if you make head contact, it's kind of like football or soccer, I should say. If you make head contact at any point of the game, you're probably going to get tossed from the game. I mean, in soccer, you could literally flick someone's ear and get tossed from a game, get a red card. But thought it was a bit odd. I mean, it didn't affect the game too much for on Toronto's side, but in Charlotte's case, guys, they lacked front court depth. I mean, that was a storyline the entire game. The Raptors were beating them up. They had nobody to take on Pascal. I mean, the twin, what's his name? Caleb Martin? Is that the one that's on the Hornets? Caleb Martin?
I think it's Cody.
Caleb or Cody? Because to be quite honest, I can really just double check right now. It is Cody Martin. You're right.
They don't make it easy on you with the two C first names. Like you can't even tell from the box.
It's so tough. They look.
Can I just comment quickly on the Champagnie toss?
Yeah.
I don't really feel like Champagnie should have got thrown out.
Yeah,
like they were obviously going at it, which is great. And then those two like very hard shoves. Like the thing is, PJ didn't like. There's always the like the one shove where you're like, I'm a tough guy. Here's a shove. But he immediately followed up with another one. They were both quite violent. Like I think that's an auto eject, and I don't think Champagnie. I think it was just kind of like, dude, you're undrafted. We're throwing you out just for aesthetic. But I don't think he deserved to be thrown out.
Yeah, I don't know. And I know when they characterized the foul, they said they specifically used the wording fighting foul. Both players have been ejected for a fighting foul. So I guess they probably thought it was equal from both sides. I don't know. Kyle, really quick, what did you think about that little scuffle between the two?
It's hard to say. Aiden was playing Catan. I was making risotto. I looked back. I looked up in the pot. I was stirring, and I looked up, and Champagnie was gone.
You can't stop stirring, man.
No, that's what I'm saying. I was stirring like super hard, and I thought it was like because it came out of the commercial break, and he was walking out of the arena and like dapped up Masai. So it was hard for me to tell. I thought like in general, he just doesn't seem like the type of guy to like put up with that type of shit. So I could see it happening, and honestly, like. I saw the events leading up to it, and I think it was valid. Like, I'm not mad at Champagnie for it at all. Like, don't let a guy put like two hands into your chest and throw you around. Like, no.
Yeah, Champagnie ran back there and popped him right here. Yeah, that's a Jokic on Markieff Morris move.
Right, Aiden, you're right when you say that normally when you get that little shove in the back, okay, most players are probably going to shove you back once, but the second one was the one that I think probably got PJ ejected. I'm not really sure if the shove in the back that Justin gave PJ was worth an ejection, unless maybe they were like, okay, on that little screen where PJ hit him and Justin kind of like pushed his way back at him. Maybe they're adding that to the fact, but I don't know. The last video you guys saw was courtesy of Sportsnet. So thank you to them for the video, obviously, but it was weird. It was very strange. A very strange play. It didn't, like I said, it didn't affect Toronto as much as it affected Charlotte. They have no bigs, man. Mason Plumlee is like their only big man. We didn't see anyone off the bench that really came in and was above 6'9".
Turner,
Miles Bridges.
Turner. There's no question.
Yeah, I think they almost have to get Miles Turner at this point. In this game, though, guys, really quick, we talked about Pascal Siakam a little bit. We'll get into him a little bit more, but the Raptors shot really well. 47% from 3, 16 of 34, 52% from the field, 43 of 82. And they shot 29 free throws. Of course, Charlotte shot 3 more at 32. So that's quite a bit of free throws between two teams. But the Raptors shot a very, very good percentage. And the reason I say this is because a lot of times in the half court, we see the Raptors, they tend to struggle a bit. People have, made it clear, especially on Raptors Twitter, that OG, I wouldn't necessarily say his value is going down. I still think in terms of what he's getting paid, he is well worth his contract. But people are starting to realize that maybe that, perennial all-star ceiling that they saw from OG prior to this year isn't probably the greatest thing. And I don't want to just pick on OG because OG had a really good game. He played 35 minutes. 24.7 rebounds. He shot a very good percentage. It's just sometimes in the isolation you start to see a bit of struggle. But in this game, guys, Gary Trent, great game. OG Anunoby, great game. Pascal Siakam, great game. Chris and Malachi, they both contributed. And then Utah played quite a bit as well. Other than Pascal, guys, who were some guys that you were really happy with in terms of their performance? Adon.
Well, yeah, I mentioned Banton. I mean, obviously Gary had an incredible game, 5 threes, and it's like sometimes this game is just as simple as like if you hit your shots, you're gonna win this game, and like I just checked, they just shot the best 3-point percentage of the season. It's not the most threes they've hit, but it's quite close. And so when you're hitting that kind of at that kind of rate, then the lane opens up and everything comes easy. And they had a ton of free throws. And a lot of that is compliments to Gary, especially when like you would think Gary's a bucket. We all know that, but he's like the 4th or 5th option in the starting lineup. And so like, when you have the least best defender on you, it's easier to be the bucket guy. But to be the bucket guy when you're like the secondary or a third scorer is like, that's a pretty big deal. And it's a good sign for Gary's growth as a player.
Yeah. Kyle, who are you happy with other than Pascal and or really just Pascal?
I'll give a shout out to OG. He had a good game. Like kind of overshadowed by a couple other great performances, but I thought OG had an excellent game. And I mean, we talk about OG like you were saying, people are reevaluating his ceiling, and like I'm one of those people, but I just think like we just need a reality check as like Raptors fans. Like, not everyone can be a superstar. It's fine to be a great role player. People need great, like if you want to look at a team that has no great role players and only guys who fancy themselves as stars, look at the Lakers. Bunch of guys who think they're stars and no one who's like an excellent.
They're all 35.
Yeah, but exactly. No one who's willing to take it. That's like when you talk about OG being like an excellent role player, it's like being like, OG's like the best nurse in the world, and someone else is angry because he's not like a brain surgeon. It's fine to be the best nurse in the world. You go to a good restaurant, like a Nobu or whatever, like there's one head chef and there's 10 line cooks. There's
Keep
not 10 head chefs
coming, baby. Keep them going.
No, but seriously, like people underrate, like you need janitors in life. You need all these guys who like take care of the world. Not everyone can be like the number one guy. It's fine to be an excellent role player. And I think OG is an excellent role player, will be for 10 years.
Yeah, I think as long as his ceiling, which I think this level, I think he's already reached, as long as he can be a guy that you can look at and say, can this guy be a starter on a championship team? I think OG has already surpassed that level. And that's a pretty tough level to reach. That's borderline all-star. That's as close as you're going to get to an all-star level. I'm totally okay with it. I don't blame people for reevaluating their Yeah, Kyle's always cooking. Kyle, you know what? Kyle's gonna have to lead some sort of wrap up potluck. Yeah, he's gonna have to do something. He's gonna have to do something for us. This guy's he just shrugged it off. I was cooking risotto, like it was like I even know how to cook. I just learned how to cook Kraft mac and cheese like a few weeks ago. No, I'm joking.
Oh god.
No, I'm not one of those guys.
For that too, though. To be fair, you do have to get that story.
Yeah, no, but I'm looking at the Charlotte Hornets guys, and really quick, they shot a pretty good percentage. The Raptors, defensively weren't as stout as maybe they could have been. However, what stands out is the Raptors' performance defensively on the perimeter. So 48.8% is what the Hornets shot from the field, 40 of 82. But from the three, they only shot 10 of 31. That's 32%. This has been, I think, one of the bigger kind of storylines this season. Can this Nick Nurse hyperactive defense that loves to run around and switch a lot, can they protect the perimeter? Can they guard the 3-point line? And in this game, they did. So I was really happy with that. Obviously, what sticks out from the Hornets side is that Kelly Oubre shot 3 for 11. It's funny. Kelly Oubre, it's funny, but it's also weird. He has one of the biggest fan bases for role players, I think, in the league. And it's weird. I'm not going to get into it, but Kelly Oubre is one of those guys that I've never felt like he's lived up to his contract. He's just I even struggle to call him a good role player, but like you guys said, that the glaring need on this team is a big. It has to be Miles Turner, and I think Miles Turner can make this a tough out in the playoffs, at least in the playoffs. For the Hornets.
Oubre is the archetype that like every GM fantasizes about, right? Like, I mean, I'm kind of surprised that he is hot. I'm kind of surprised
that guy is not good at basketball because it would be a tough life to live if that guy was like Michael Jordan level skilled.
I know. You'd hear about it all day, but I think like Masai would. I'm surprised Masai didn't sign him. Like, he's long, he can handle the ball, he can shoot. He's just not good. But I think that's why he bounces around teams. He just fits that archetype so well.
Yeah, I'm looking at also at the Oren. You're lucky, honestly, Oren. We even highlighted that because I wasn't trying to say it, but you said it for me. That is his fan base. That is the overwhelming opinion on Kelly Oubre.
But not as hot as Gary.
Yeah, definitely not as hot as Gary. Adon, really quick. I know you weren't 100% into this game, which I'm very happy you're honest with, because there are games for me where I'm not 100% there either. In what you did watch, were you happy with the overall bench performance from guys like, I guess I don't even want to say Champagnie because he played only 4 minutes, but namely Malachi Flynn, Delano Banton, and Yuta Watanabe. Were you happy with what you saw from those three guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like, we score 125 points and our bench still only pumps out 24 points. Like, it's still pretty pitiful, but we're so anemic from the bench these days that feels like 1,000 points. No, I mean, it's great. Like, I think. They shouted out Kelsey, one of our Raptor Republic writers, on her work in the 905, and she talked about Yuta, like, voluntarily going to the 905 to get reps, and I think like that's what the G League's for, and it's great to see that Flynn and Banton all came with like a confidence. I mean, not that Flynn lacks confidence, really. I think that guy's like got endless confidence, but you know what I mean. He got his reps in, so it was nice to see that they could come out and give you ample time. And buy a rest. I think really for us, all that matters is that Flynn just increased his trade value. I think that's all that really matters in this game, ultimately.
Truthfully, before you say something really quick, did you guys even think Malachi Flynn would have gotten an opportunity to do what he did if Champagnie was out of the game? Kyle, do you think he would have been in there?
To be fair, they are pretty different roles. So I think that Flynn's minutes were carved out for him as soon as Fred was out for the night. But I actually thought Flynn had a good night. He picked up his third foul like halfway through the second, and Nurse stayed with him, like showing some confidence, and he didn't pick up another foul for the rest of the game. And it's weird, like I don't want to harp on him because he just had an excellent night, probably his best night of the year. But like they keep saying this like defensive player of the year thing. It's the Mountain West. It's not the ACC. Like you get defensive player in the year in the Mountain West for like locking up some like 5'11" Mormon guy. Like it's not like they're not playing Duke in Kentucky. Like it's not that type of league. Like,
dude, are you going to Jimmer Fredette right now?
Good for him, but that doesn't translate to the NBA.
We're not doing Jimmer Fredette slander. How about that? We're not doing that right now. Adon, I know you're not having that either. You guys can see to the left of our screen Kelsey O'Brien, who is with us at the Raptors Republic. She covers the Raptors 905. She was shouted out on screen, which is super cool to see, and it's honestly cooler to see when there's a bunch of Raptors Twitter. I guess you could say the people with a higher. I was about to say the Raptors Twitter elites, but I don't want to make it seem like there's some classist thing going on with Raptors Twitter. But it was cool to see Kelsey get shouted out from a bunch of people with big followings. She's doing great things with the 905 and with Raptors Republic, so that was cool to see. I know my friend William Liu has gotten a shout out a few times. I really like how this Raptors
were you just name dropping there, or was
no, because I want to say I really like how this Raptors broadcast is making you guys know what I'm trying to say. Like the way they're shouting out people, it seems like every single Raptors game, it's incredible. I love it. I love it.
Chris is on tonight. Chris is on tonight.
I like that Chris is feeling what I'm feeling. Like it's right in line.
Chris is fast, yeah. Gary Trent Jr. guys, I don't want to say we don't see these games often, but 11 for 21, 32 points. Did they say they only shout out people who work for Sportsnet? That's a good point. I'm, did, yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. I'm not going to argue with that. Really quick, guys, Gary Trent Jr., I want to delve into his game a little bit more. He's been a guy where it's almost like since he's came back from injury, he's had to shoot his way into a game like this. And we've saw some pretty percentages up until then. In this game, though, he was hitting everything. There was a shot in this game, guys, where he hit like a Dirk-like fadeaway where it almost seemed like he was just throwing it at the net and it went in. And I was thinking to myself, if Gary Trent Jr. is going to hit that, then there's nothing that's going to stop him in this game. And then he hit, I think, eight or 10 more points after that and ended with 32. That's the shot that I'm talking about. I don't understand what the hell. How did he make that shot? That's a one-step fadeaway. Guards don't do that. Do they, guys? Or am I tripping? That's a Dirk Nowitzki fade. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Really quick on Gary Trent Jr., guys. Did you guys like his game, Adon, at all? Did you like what you saw from his game? And what is the key to keeping him consistent? Because it feels like sometimes even the shots he is making, they are tough shots. So what is the key? The key. I'm trying to read these comments. Zara, you're a liar. Like you say you make that shot all the time in 3-on-3. You do not make that shot all the time in 3-on-3 at all, Zara. You don't need.
Or the 5'8" Mormon guy that Kyle's talking about.
Malachi was locking up Oren in the Mountain West Conference. They had no choice but to give him the defensive player of the year.
I love it how Oren and Zara have just taken over our comment section. Oren, you're literally never hitting that shot. Like, we can have this argument on a different show. You're never hitting that shot, even with nobody in your face. But Kyle, did you like what you saw from Gary Trent Jr. in this game?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the beauty of Gary is like he doesn't need to be like a creator like that to have a great game. Like he's just a good spacer in general. So games like tonight where he's like everything's hitting and he pulling up, like taking a bunch of checks. It's just fun to watch. And we're like, it's like a weird, I guess KD probably started this, but like people talk about like the difference between like a basketball player and like a hooper. Like Gary's like one of the only like heat check, like he's like a hooper. He's like one of the few guys in the team who's like a hooper.
Thanks.
And it's a good thing. You want basketball players, like basketball players on your team. Like you want a team with too many hoopers. Like the Hornets are only hoopers. There's a bunch of guys like trying to play like NBA Jam, like street ball stuff and like not playing any defense, getting blown out. It's good that the Raptors don't have a lot of flashy players. That's what winning teams have. But Gary's like just entertainment. That's fun to watch. I'm down with it. Even sometimes like on off nights, I'm down with it.
It's a good question, Sahal, about like maintaining Gary's production though, because like and I mean part of it is that like he plays this isolation game that I mean like when I watch it I'm sometimes surprised it goes in, but it is consistent. I think running, I mean, you could run more options through him like they did with Norman Powell just to get him off early. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, again, it's like that's the nice thing about when you have guys like Barnes and Freddie out is you give guys space to kind of like flourish and operate in a better context. But it is something to think about moving forward. Like how can we get the best out of Gary at a day by day or every game?
I guess the best thing about Gary is he possesses shot making qualities that's most Raptors, if not all, just do not have. Gary's probably the only guy off the dribble I'm okay with, and Fred, of course. Off the dribble, I'm okay with just pulling up from three, and you don't really cringe or anything. I mean, we've seen Pascal do it, but that's probably not the best use of Pascal's qualities. Gary's that guy where there's not a lot of great ISO scorers on the Raptors. I mean, OG is inconsistent. Some nights he looks great. Other nights he's Pascal has looked fantastic the last couple months almost. And Fred had his hot streak. But Gary has always been that guy where when you need a bucket and you need one badly, you give it to Gary and you just leave it. You just leave it. And he'll somehow create a shot that just blows your mind, but then you're also like, oh, that's Gary Trent Jr. He can do that. Guys, I don't want to harp on any players because I feel like, especially Zarar gets super mad at me during wins if I harp on bad players, because he always says get into the good before the bad. I feel like I can just hear it in the background right now. But were you okay with how I'm trying to see how I can word this, the polarizing Precious Achiuwa played today? Adon.
If Precious goes 3 for 6, and most of his shots are within his realm of operation, I'm okay. Like I've always said about Precious is that he earns himself a couple of boneheaded shots a game. His rebounding has saved us. His defense has saved us at times. Like he's an integral part of the system we run, and so like he's gonna learn to make stupid moves, or he's gonna learn by making stupid moves sometimes. So yeah, I think he played pretty well. The one play I caught that was quite impressive to me was that like little drive, and then he throws the alley-oop to Boucher, and that's kind of like the fun stuff you like to see. But then I saw Flynn drive baseline and pass to a wide open Precious, and it just like hits his hands like he's got 2 mallets for fingers. So
you see my tweet about him having stone hands?
I feel like
Boucher is going to show him that.
Siakam, he sees like tapes of the Harlem Globetrotters like destroying the Washington Generals and goes like, yeah, I can probably pull that off. Like, what is that off the top of the backboard and off someone's head? I can handle that. Like he shoots like he's taking shots that even Pascal doesn't take.
I know, but I think part of that is like they do impart confidence into these guys, right? Like they want them to like push those limits. Yeah. And he's just not being very thoughtful of when to do that. You see OG kind of do the same thing, right? Like, well, that's funny. OG does the same thing where he's just kind of like, he doesn't choose his isolation moments properly, or he doesn't choose his moments of attack, and he's getting better and better. And I think Bryce is just starting from step 0. In the sense that he has no feel for when to do something and when not to do it and how to do it.
It's almost like, guys, when we say players have bad hands, because we've said this before with guys like Freddie Gillespie, Bismack Biyombo, who's already being mentioned in the comments, who, by the way, I'm very happy for. He's received a nice opportunity with the Phoenix Suns. So good for Bismack. I feel like he's always going to be in Raptors fans' hearts. But it's one thing to just drop passes and to fumble every ball that comes your way in the paint. But it's another thing to like when you do it when you don't really realize the ball's coming. Okay, sure. There was this one possession, and I know we don't have it, but yeah, Aaron Baines was by far the worst guru. You're right. I don't even know how I didn't mention that. But there was this one possession where it was like end of the shot clock. You just toss it to Precious and hope he can do something underneath the rim. He didn't expect it. Bounced off his chest, went out of bounds. He kind of just looks at the ground, sulks, and walks back. That I don't blame him for. But there's so many just basic entry passes that come his way, and it's like, how are you fumbling that? Like, what? I don't know. That's just one tiny little gripe I have with Precious. It's something that I've had a problem with, honestly, since I've seen him attempt to catch a basketball in a Raptors uniform. But overall, this isn't a game where we can overdiagnose Precious. We know what his strengths are. We know what his weaknesses are. I feel like Zarar is just going on an absolute tirade in the comments right now about Precious's skills and what he lacks at. Here he says Precious thinks what he's going to do with the ball before he catches it. That's a good point. He doesn't want the defense to catch up to him quickly, so he hurries, and it's inexperience. Yeah, it is. That's exactly what it is. I don't know why, Zarar, you and Oren have just taken over our comment section when you can just join us in actual voice chat.
Or at least donate some money while you're at it.
Yeah, super chat us, do something. How about
that? I want to say about Precious, like, it's not just the weird shot attempts. It's like he has 3 or 4 moments a game where he just takes like an extra beat to get a pass off, or like tries to look a guy off completely unsuccessfully and then makes a pass that he should have made too late. Like all that kind of stuff that just bogs down an offense and doesn't necessarily like even show up as like a missed shot or as a turnover, etc. Like that's the kind of stuff he's just not up on. So it's really hard to like he's young, he's super young, and he's super inexperienced, and his workload should be limited. But it seems like even in a limited workload, he has issues finishing, playmaking, etc.
That's what I want to say, and this is a good point too. I think like the guys Nurse does entrust, and he lets them go and explore and experiment. But like you said, Kyle, ultimately this dude's 22. He's logged like 40 real games, not even like 25 real games of basketball where he's asked to do something more than rebound and catch alley-oops. Like, yes, I'd like him to shoot better than 21% at the rim or whatever the hell it is. And not make those boneheaded decisions. But ultimately, I think like him as a prospect is great, and we can't criticize him in the same way we criticize Boucher when he's like moping around trebucheting 40-foot threes all the time. You know, it's a different criteria that we have to use.
We talk about
precious, man.
Yeah. I mean, we're not going to use this platform to just hop on him every single time, but I think he's one of the guys that we have to keep a focus on throughout the season, because the fact of the matter is this is a guy that we can see minor improvements almost every game from him. It seems like he's accepting of his role and understands it, but there are those little hiccups that come, feels like once or twice every quarter, where you're just like, oh, precious. Not that, man. Not that. He's young. Hopefully he shakes that off. Like Zorar said, it's inexperience. It's one of those things that with experience, he's going to get much better at. And hopefully the Raptors can get eventually down the road a core player in Precious Achiuwa. Moving on really quick, guys. This is a game that I noticed a lot of non-Raptors fans were watching on Twitter. And I've noticed that it wasn't really because of the Raptors. It was because of Lamelo Ball. Just a quick comment on the season he's been having, because he's been playing at a near all-star level this entire season. He had a pretty good game in this one. It wasn't like crazy good. It was a good game for LaMelo standards. 25 points, 7 assists, a few rebounds. He did have 4 turnovers, but I mean, who really cares about that? I mean, what guard isn't averaging 4 turnovers? What high volume guard's not averaging that?
Ready, that's who.
Do you guys agree with me when I say he's one of the more fun guards to watch in the league? Aiden?
He's the most fun guard to watch in the league. Clip, I don't know if I can't describe it well enough to get Chris to bring it up, but he had a behind the back pass from half court earlier this year, which is like actually the nicest pass I've ever seen in the history of like my basketball watching. He is the most fun. And it was interesting to see him and Banton kind of matched up, because it's like that's Banton like absolute best case scenario is that he becomes LaMelo Ball with really good defense. Like that's sort of like
that's like the best case of the best case of the best case. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So I think like LaMelo is the guy. I can see why people are watching him, but maybe Banton's up next. Give him 3-4 years. We'll see.
If you had happened to read my preview today, you would have seen that I also agree he's probably the best passer in this league as far as like creativity and fun goes. Like I think Jokic is probably the best passer, especially in transition. Like LaMelo's like ability to pass the ball is like otherworldly. And I also
look at that pass.
Yeah,
look at that pass. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And the thing is he doesn't have like 3 or 4. He has like 30 or 40 of these passes. I don't think he's like a better player than Freddie. I don't think he's like, I almost don't know if he's better than Garland really in like his impact, or at least like all around game. But as far as like creativity and fun, like dude, he is so fun to watch.
Yeah. I mean, aesthetically, it's so much fun to watch. There's a lot of Raptors on this team who I noticed aesthetically they're not as pleasing to watch. This is a reason why a lot of casual fans do not like watching OG Anunoby. And this week I've seen like people put him in like trades where I feel like now with the Raptors core, we've gotten to the point where it's like, okay, let's just wait to see which core guy gets in a rut so we can just throw him in the trade machine and see what we can get for him. Like, we're not going to do that, guys. We're definitely not going to do that. Pascal is playing at an all-star level. Fred is playing at an all-star level. OG is as close as you could probably get to an all-star level. And the Raptors are in pretty good shape. I mean, they sat 9th in the Eastern Conference right before this. I can check right now where they stand. Can we get actually like a live standings look, Chris, if that's possible, on where the Raptors stand? I think they're still 9th. It's super tight in the Eastern Conference. I know the Wizards are right around where they are, the Celtics as well, and then the Hornets. I'm looking at the score app really quick, and they're 9th. But I think ESPN is the updated version. Yeah, where they're 8th at 23 wins and 22 losses. It's so tough to look at these standings, guys, simply because immediately what comes to your mind is the playoff matchups. And we've talked about it before, which matchups we think would be easier for Toronto and which ones would be tougher. For the Raptors, though, this is probably as close to a first round exit team as we're going to see. I do not see them winning.
Whoa.
I genuinely do not see them winning against any top 4 team except having a very good fight against the Bulls. I think they take most of those teams to 6. But they it's tough. I don't know. The Bulls, they're so good in the regular season. I just don't know. I feel like the Raptors would give them a run for their money in the playoffs. No Fred and no Barnes. You guys are right. Buster, you are right. No Fred and no Barnes. So we got to take this result that was a win with a grain of salt. With a fully healthy team, though, I genuinely do think the Raptors would come out as winners against Chicago. I know if you're not a Raptors fan, you're watching this, you probably think I'm absolutely insane, considering how Chicago's looked this year. Josh Lewenberg to the left of the screen says, after tonight, 4 games separate the 6 teams between 7th and 12th in the East: Charlotte, Boston, Toronto, Washington, New York, and Atlanta. And he says, with their win over the Hornets, the Raptors improved to 8-3 versus teams in that group, which is very good. And they already own 2 of the tiebreakers. Also, I wanted to say, ignore Zarar, because he's an Arsenal fan. And on Wrap Up Live, we don't really listen to what Arsenal fans have to say. So if there is a case
we talk
where
about soccer on Wrap Up Live,
so if there is a case where Zarar's ever on here and you can actually see his face, just don't listen to anything he says, because he's an Arsenal fan. And Arsenal, my friends, are I don't want to cuss on here, but yeah, shite.
So on the playoff front, I think first of all, we'll play the Bulls tomorrow, which will be a good test. But the Bulls are in trouble. Ball and Caruso are out for like at least 6 weeks, and I think they're going to plummet. So like, you know, there's wiggle room in there. If Cleveland keeps going or Philly keeps going, the Nets have all kinds of problems. We've played the Bucks hard. We can play the Heat well. Like, it's not and maybe this is a good segue to trade talk, but I honestly, and I'm a pretty cynical guy, but I honestly think there is like an avenue here where we can win a first round upset and then anything can go. Like the way Pascal is improving game by game, the way Freddie's improving game by game, like we're halfway through the season. Like our team could be much superior towards the end. And I think, so I don't think of even though this is kind of a developmental year, I think there's a lot of potential here to push. And I would be disappointed if we lost in the first round, unless we got like smoked by Milwaukee or something.
Yeah. I want to say, like, moving into trade talks here, I want to talk about Boucher, because Boucher playing in that lineup tonight instead of Scottie, there's a noticeable difference in spacing. There's a lot more room on the floor having Boucher, who's like a legitimate, whatever. He's not shooting super well, but over the last 10-ish games, he's been a good shooter. And he's spaces the floor better than Scottie does, at least from a shooting perspective. So, like, I actually thought that part of the reason the Raptors offense got rolling so early is because there's so much space on the floor. They got to do basically anything they wanted. And if the goal is to move on from Boucher, they're going to have to get a similarly talented piece shooting wise, or else they're going to be in deep trouble offensively.
Yeah, for sure.
I wanted to respond to Ryan just because I wanted him to know that I saw it. Yeah, that's a good point. I think you see what happens when these guys don't go 100% in a game. They get fucking smoked by Detroit. So, and I also think Toronto's weaknesses when they don't have Kawhi Leonard is half-court offense. So I think between effort and half and like a slowed game, Toronto is probably a little bit more disadvantaged. But I think our half court offense is coming along, and I think our defense is legit, whether it's effort or not. Like I do think, I mean, our full court press last couple of days has been pretty wicked. But it's a good point, Ryan. But I do think that this isn't fool's gold. That there's like some legitimate, it's a legitimate team.
Do we have? I think Chris. Let's quickly get into some of the clips that we requested earlier. Let's do some film review, and then we'll probably get into Taxman a bit later. Quickly, guys, before I was going to say before Chris pulls it up, but I mean, Chris already pulled it up. Okay. No, go ahead, Chris. No, go ahead. No, you already did it. Go ahead. Thanks, man. Appreciate
this is me. I had this earlier because it's like, I didn't know it was going to be such a blowout. It's a little negative, I'll be honest, but like, OG he's limited with the ball in his hands, and I get that you want to make him into a creator, you want to get him reps, but like, if he's going to bring the ball up the floor and get harassed by Cody Martin, like, okay, it's one thing, like Kawhi used to do that to guys when he was super locked in defensively, like not let them get over the timeline with the ball pressure. That's one thing. But like, is Cody Martin like a lockdown defender like that?
Okay. Let me quickly say something, Kyle. The Martin brothers are actually very good one-on-one defenders. I give them credit. Like, they have ideal wingspan for their positions. They almost take it very personal on defense, so I have to give them their credit there. Okay. Like, and I see a lot of Miami writers and Charlotte writers as well clamoring about how good this guy is on defense, and I don't really listen until I watch. And from what I saw, I think this is more OG than anything, because OG just dribbling straight at you is just not a scary thing for a defender, unless he's coming downhill, of course. But
didn't they play in the Mountain West?
These two probably
saw Nevada in the Mountain West.
I think it is.
It is in the Mountain West.
Probably locked up Orin.
They're actually playing the Colorado State Rams right now.
You can see how limited he is with his left hand, though, because he keeps trying to get his way back to that right, and he doesn't have enough time. Like, you have the ability to just go left there, and he just keeps trying to set it up so he has more room. I don't know. He needs to get that out quickly.
I think this is indicative of like what I've been talking about with OG in isolation, is that like his handles aren't that tight, and I like that he's like trying to create on his own, but he needs to be like quicker and more decisive, because as we can see, like, they're just not as good. He's not moving players with what he's doing. He needs another offseason to kind of to build that out.
The game is all about advantage creation, and I think when OG, he believed if he got downhill on that, it's done. Like, it's at that point the Raptors are scoring a bucket somehow, some way. So that was probably his thought process. All I have to do is get past this one guy, and then it's slim pickings for everyone. But I think really quick on that specific play that we saw, why not just give it to Precious? Was waiting there for a full 5 seconds, just simply waiting at half court, wasn't even getting pressed. OG probably on that play has to know better. I have the next clip, which is I hope we have the full clip, because what I wanted to show in this one was, so right before this play, I've talked about this before. This came after a Lamelo missed layup. Now, the Raptors, this is something I've said before. Kyle Lowry used to love to do this. Or it was actually a made layup, I apologize. The quick inbounds, the way this ball got inbounded by the Raptors and then ran up the court. And I always used to think to myself, why do the Raptors do this? Like, no other team begs the referee, can we inbound it? Pass the ball. We need to inbound it really quickly. Let's get this ball up court. The Raptors do it for a reason, and this is exactly why, because in the half court, you get situations like this. OG Anunoby immediately runs down low. And who's waiting for him down low? None other than probably the smallest guy in the entire court, Ish Smith, runs at him. Ish has no choice but to foul him. And this is another reason why I think Nick Nurse emphasizes that the Raptors quickly get into their set. It's almost like I want to say like a quasi transition possession, where it's like you're not necessarily full out in transition, but you know you're going to get a mismatch somewhere. And OG found it immediately, found Ish Smith down low, immediately drawn foul. And look at Mason. Mason Plumlee's like, what am I supposed to do here? I have Precious up top. OG on Ish is just it's easy money. Have you guys noticed that as well with these quick inbounds that Fred and all these other guys are doing?
Yeah, this is kind of like they've been doing this a lot lately, which is like Pascal's been doing it, Scottie's been doing it. It's like transition or off a made bucket, like run down, get right under excuse me, get right under the rim and then seal your man, and we'll just lob it into you. And they're cheapies and they're gimmies, because basically of those three guys, there's going to be a big mismatch. And the other thing, like you said with Plumlee, is that like having bigs that are a little bit dangerous from the outside, or at least can create or whatever, inverts the other team's defense where the big is being pulled out, and that's all just part of why the Raptors are constructed or that's part of the intention of constructing the Raptors this way.
Yeah, like in general, those cross matches in transition, whether it be from an inbounds or from a missed shot, like if the Raptors are, like you said, they're constructed in a way where they're going to have a wing guarding a guard pretty often because they play 4 or 5 wings on the floor almost always. So those mismatches always exist. And it's always frustrating to see like when Scottie gets a cross match in transition and doesn't get to take advantage of it. And I think that used to be the case for OG for years, and now he just gets them every time. So maybe maybe that's become Scottie eventually as well. And Precious.
I love it. It's like these little tidbits of knowledge that are getting passed on from Kyle to Fred that just affect the entire team. This is something that I was so confused with when Kyle used to do it all the time, because I was like, Kyle, the defense is already set. Why are you begging for an inbound super quick? And then I never used to realize Kyle was doing it because half the time the defense wasn't actually set, and he was just trying to find mismatches on the court before they could get set. And they did it perfectly there with OG on Ish. I don't know if we have another clip. I don't believe we do.
That's it.
That would be it. That would be it. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. Yeah, I love when that happens, when we just, where did that come from? Let's get into Taxman. Let's get into Taxman really quick, guys. This is probably one of the easier ones of the year. It has to be Pascal, man. Pascal has to be the player of the game in this one. And he is your Can-Am Taxman of the night. And Can-Am CPA, they are a full service and small business accounting and tax firm with an experienced and friendly staff that can help you navigate a triangle offense better than anything Adon can draw up for his team that he coaches. Can-Am also provides personal tax preparation and can recover the refunds that you are entitled to. So don't leave your money on the table, guys. It's tax season. It's coming. It's coming closer and closer and closer. Do not panic, though, because Can-Am Tax is here. If you have questions about your personal taxes, reach out to Can-Am. They'd be happy to help the Raptors community. You guys can see it. Top of the screen, phone number, or www.canamtax.com. Check out their Google reviews. They're very good. And we all support Can-Am Tax. So thank you to Can-Am Tax for supporting the show. Thank you very much. Pascal Siakam, your Can-Am Tax player of. I should do commercials. Like, the more I do these Can-Am Tax things, I'm starting to think I should just be a voiceover for commercials.
You got flow.
Let me know in the comments, because
your flow is going.
Yeah. I personally think I should, but I've been getting absolutely demolished in the comments. It started with Zarar, then it went to Oren, and now I feel like everyone's just caught on, and now people are talking about Kyle's mustache, and it's just you guys are all over us today, and I don't know what it is, but we love you too. We love you too. Quickly into questions. I know before we actually get into our first question, Kyle, you wanted to talk about Eric Flynn a little bit. This is the rejoice period for Eric Flynn, Malachi's father. No?
Don't give him the space, man.
I think it's not even the time, considering like how well he played. Like maybe we'll wait for the next poor Malachi performance. I hope that tonight changes his opinion of Nick Nurse a little bit, at least, because I think that was a big moment where like he picks up his third foul and gets to stay in the game. Like, that's confidence. And even he played 25 minutes tonight, 26 minutes tonight. Like, that's a lot. I mean, I guess Fred was out, but like that's some good playing time. He deserves, he deserves some credit. Ooh, that's a pixelated box score right there.
I think the problem is it just validates Eric's whining. He's like, "See, I told you."
Yeah. Now we're definitely gonna get that. And again. it's funny, Aiden, because Kyle mentioned this to me earlier today. He's like, do you want to talk about Eric Flynn on tonight's show? And I was thinking to myself, like, I haven't even really been paying attention to this guy all year. But he's gotten a ton of attention from Raptors fans. I didn't know what platform he was even using to I thought it was Twitter. So I immediately searched Eric Flynn on Twitter.
Rumors
And it was just
use Facebook,
commentary.
man.
Yeah. And then I realized he was on Facebook, just all over different comment sections talking about his son. It's funny because now we're starting to see Malachi Flynn in reported trade discussions coming off a good game. Aiden, you said it earlier. This helps his trade value. If anything, a game like this, I still feel like he's a backup point guard in this league. I don't know if the Raptors system maybe fits him perfectly. I don't know if it's maybe they're just the personnel they have that's just pushing them out. Delano Banton's having a pretty good rookie season, all things considered. I didn't even expect him to play this year at all, but here he is. Yeah, Eric Flynn's become our version of what's his name? LeVar Ball. He's literally become our version of LeVar Ball. I love it. I love it. Maybe I need to add him on Facebook or something. Have a chat with him. Maybe we need to invite him on here. Aiden, can we invite him on here? What do you think about that?
Fuck no. I'd love to invite some people on here, but I do not want that dingus and to be validated in any way.
He's also in the Pacific Northwest. You guys could go meet in person and settle this.
Down for a one-on-one interview.
A one-on-one feature interview. Yeah. Before we close up for the night, that's an inside joke on Twitter. If you're part of NBA Twitter, you know where that's from. Yeah, Chris, I'm so happy you brought that up. I love that.
Chris is having a big night.
Chris is having so much fun behind there. He's having so much fun. We have a few questions favorited. I just got to find them really quick in the chat.
There's starred.
Yeah, here is. Oops, sorry, guys. There's the first one from Ryan. He says, with Banton and Flynn showing an NBA pulse and Pascal 12 Siakam arriving at PG, are we fine at backup PG? Aiden, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm not worried specifically about the ball handler piece. I think we have enough like ways in which we can like make up for that. I'm more interested in having a guard who can provide like a dynamic offense, where whether that's like you were saying, Sahal, like a better shooter, or like a guy who can create for himself, like Gary Trent. Somebody that you can kind of stick in the lineup and get a little bit of a boost.
Alexander Walker.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's gonna do it this year necessarily, but but yeah, as far as like now and future, would be a good choice.
I love that. Kyle, do you think we're okay at backup PG? Maybe we got to look at big as more of a pressing priority for us?
Yeah, easily. I don't even see the need for like another. There are already too many mouths to feed. Like we want to bring another ball handler into this ecosystem. I don't know. I'm good.
Just doesn't work. Yeah, I'm probably the same. I think the two main priorities for the Raptors are bringing in shooting, some sort of 3-point shot creating individual that you can just bring in, and then obviously the main one that we've been talking about all season long has been a big as well. The next question is from Mike Kamina. He says, who do you guys think? He says, who do you guys think get in? Did you even let me read that? He says, who do you guys think is the number one option on this team? After tonight, guys, I'm going to answer, and I'm going to say it has to be Pascal. I think Fred is the type of guy that it's almost become like a 1A, 1B situation, and it changes game to game. But I think when it really comes down to it, if this does turn out to be a playoff team and there's one possession on the line, hypothetically, I think you got to go Pascal. I do believe he's the best player on the team. I don't know if you guys agree with me.
Yeah, it was and always is Pascal. Like Freddie's, again, like drawing an analogy to Kyle is like, is that 1B? He can get you. He can go nuts in games and he can create for you, but he's better not being the primary like creator for your team.
Yeah, Kyle, you on the same wave? Pascal 1A and Fred.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually sort of miss the days when Fred was like a relocation shooter and OG was a 3-and-D guy. I think the team was like I think the offense worked a lot better, and not last year, the year prior, and it's hard to compare because Lowry is around. It's a different atmosphere, but like Fred was basically a relocation shooter. OG was a 3-and-D guy, and Pascal was the number one guy with no question scoring-wise, and I think the offense actually looked a lot better.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. Let's do maybe a couple more questions. The next one's from Ryan. He says, is anyone starting to raise the trade demands to give up the young and inconsistent bench? Yeah.
I don't get the question.
Yeah, what people don't understand is like you got to have something to give away. It's like trade requires two parties. Like you have to give something away in order to like fix the inconsistent bench. So what assets do the Raptors have other than the inconsistent bench to improve? Like it doesn't really make sense. They'd have to give away a first round pick, and then you kind of like we would have to talk about how much do you believe in this team? Like, are you willing to give away an unprotected first round pick this year? Or a slightly protected first-round pick next year to improve the bench of a team that isn't really a contender anyway? I don't know.
Yeah. At first, I was like, I don't really understand this question, but then I had to read it over a couple times. I think, Aiden, you were with me. I had to read it over a couple times.
I don't follow. I saw, but I'll let you guys answer. It's okay.
I'm assuming what you're asking is if the general view is to raise like you said, the trade demands on the bench because of how well they're playing or how well they played tonight. I don't know, because I think all these front offices around the NBA are looking at the Raptors bench and they don't really see anybody that stands out that maybe goes, I really want that guy other than maybe Chris Boucher, but Chris Boucher was starting today. Most of these guys are just seem like you have to pair a Chris Boucher or a first round pick with them to even get rid of them. So I don't know if the Raptors can even get rid of any. Like I know I've seen a lot of people go, well, why don't you just trade this guy for a second round pick? Because I feel like that's just like the fallback when you have nothing else to bring to the trade table. But I don't even know if guys would trade. If you're a front office executive, Aiden, for whatever team you want to be, are you trading a second round pick for Svi? I don't even think Svi makes many NBA rosters, to be quite honest with you. Same with guys like Isaac Bonga. To be honest, Champagnie, he plays in the Raptors rotation. I don't know if he plays in a bunch of other rotations around the league. And I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just being totally honest. This is known. The Raptors are known to have one of the worst benches in the league. It's clear. The question is, do you try and improve that bench, make a very strong playoff run, or do you just leave it as it is and go, you know what, we're just going to keep this team together in the name of development, try and get all these guys the reps they can, and leave it as is? We've answered that question multiple times in what we think, but yeah, sorry guys. I saw someone earlier in the comments say I was a bit negative today, but sorry if you felt
whatever, you're good. I think the only guys on the bench that have trade value are Utah and Boucher. But the problem is they're both expiring, and so that deflates their value a little bit. But I genuinely think Utah could play some minutes in a playoff series, just as like that defensive stopper, spot up shooter, and Boucher can play on a legitimate playoff contending team.
Yeah,
the way he's playing right now is like he can contribute, and I think you could probably. I think you could extract a first-round draft pick from a team if you wanted to get him. And I go back and forth. I don't know what Toronto's going to do, and I think the answer is they don't know either. They're going to wait and see what they can make in the trade market. Like if there's an opportunity to, like Masai does, if there's an opportunity to seize on something that's like advantageous to the Toronto's franchise, they're going to do it, whether that's selling or buying. I think they're just going to look to try and find the arbitrage.
Yeah, for sure. Kyle, any last thoughts about the Raptors bench and the overall value seen around the league?
Yeah, I think just in terms of like the Boucher discussion, like getting an asset like a first round pick, that doesn't even necessarily mean you have to pick with that asset. You don't have to make a selection. You could trade that pick. You could trade it for a pick the following year, et cetera. It's just like trading Boucher is capitalizing on an asset that they're not going to retain next year in exchange for something that they could actually use at all. And I think, maybe it's moving Boucher for a first rounder that's in the teens, and then on draft day packaging both first rounders to move up into the lottery. that sort of move, which teams in Toronto's position have done before.
Similar to the Norman Powell situation when the Raptors
exactly.
at the trade deadline.
Extend the contract of a younger guy. Is
he's hitting free agency. Maybe he's not part of those long-term plans. And who knows? Maybe Chris Boucher is. Maybe he plays so well up until the deadline where Masai goes, you know what? We're going to try to bring this guy back. We're going to leave him on this year. We're going to try to be as competitive as possible. And we're going to try to bring him back. We want Chris Boucher to be just outside one of the core guys on this team. Who knows? But at this point, he's looking like one of the clear trade targets, I think, for Toronto and for other teams, to be quite honest. I think that's the last question, guys. I know you guys have more questions in the comments. We'll probably get to them. I'm seeing a lot of familiar names from past shows, so you guys will get plenty of opportunities to ask more questions. Josh Lewinberg says Nurses, VanVleet, and Barnes will travel on the team's upcoming road trip. Birch is making progress, but it's still a ways away. Raptors are in Chicago tomorrow night, and then head to Miami, and then to Atlanta.
Sweet. Here comes the winning streak, baby.
All right. I love this part. What is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games.
That's an interesting schedule. It literally almost repeats twice.
Yeah. I mean, they played Charlotte, the top team, tonight. So they got Chicago tomorrow. A couple days off. You got Miami, Atlanta, Miami, Chicago, Atlanta again, Charlotte
it's
again.
Like a palindrome of a schedule.
Yeah, it's insane. And then you got OKC, which is always fun. This time in OKC. What do you guys think about this? This is tough. I'm seeing a lot of Chicago, a lot of Miami, and a lot of Atlanta. Even though Atlanta's not doing too great this year, but this is pretty tough. 3-game road trip, 3 games at home, and then 2-game road trip again. Do you see the Raptors coming out of this alive in the playoff race?
If Raps want to send a message, this is another opportunity to do it, because Atlanta is kind of like trying to right the ship. Chicago's injured, and fuck Charlotte. So like I think this is like an opportunity for us to really kind of like carve out a spot in the standings.
Yeah, this is a crucial stretch. This is like a season-defining 8-game stretch here for the Raptors that either puts them like in position to almost make a push for that 6th spot and stay out of the play-in, or move them all the way back to that 10 spot, and where they'll be struggling to even make the play-in, and really having to decide whether or not because the trade deadline is on the 10th. It's one day after that OKC game. Really decide whether or not they're selling or buying at the deadline. So, I mean, this is the biggest 8-game stretch of the season thus far.
Yeah, your hope is that Scottie and Fred return. Obviously, Scottie with the wrist swelling, and then Fred with the soreness that he's dealing with. Yeah, this is crucial, guys. This is extremely crucial. There's 8 games, January 26th, all the way up until the 9th of February. It's going to be fun to see where the Raptors stand after this little stretch. I think that'll end it for tonight. But before you guys leave us, we need you to like, comment, and subscribe, guys. If you have been here, especially the people that have been here from the very, very start of our live show, please like. We know you've already left a comment. Maybe you haven't. Maybe you've just been watching. Please like and subscribe to the Raptors Republic channel. We have a ton of content on there. Turn on the post notifications if you haven't already. Check out RaptorsRepublic.com. Adon, like he said, had the preview of tonight's game, so you can maybe read over that. Yeah.
And our trade roundtable came out too. So if you want to see mine, Oren's, Kyle's, Max, and Manny's opinions, you can go read it there. We got shat on big time in the comment section, so you can go agree with those assholes, or you can agree with us. Happy to have you read.
Let's do it. Let's bring the entire Wrap Up Live community to the Raptors Republic. Because let me tell you guys, before you guys get there, and some of you guys might be here in this part of this community and part of that community, but before you guys get there, just be very careful, because we're talking like super diehard Raptors fans that, it does get pretty dark there sometimes. It's a healthy comment section, but it does get dark there sometimes. So just be very careful. That was it. That was the wrap up. Your Raptors Republic post-game live show. Your Toronto Raptors defeated the Charlotte Hornets 125-113, bringing the Raptors record to 23-22 on the season. This live show was produced by none other than the great Chris Howson-Jan, who was on his A game today. That was it for myself, Chris behind the scenes, Aiden Moss, Kyle Brickman. We'll see you guys tomorrow night for Chicago. It's going to be a lot of fun. Peace. Arsenal.